This happened when I was a child, so some details are a bit fuzzy, but I remember the important moments well. I grew up in Nebraska and rode my bike to school every day. Because my parents were always working, it was just easier that way. We lived in a rural area surrounded by farms, and the road to school passed by a massive cornfield. Looking back now, I realize it probably wasn't that big, but to a child it seemed endless. Our house was on the other side of the field, but my parents strictly forbade cutting through the corn. They were afraid I'd get lost without a cell phone, and I didn't argue. I'd seen how easy it was to lose your bearings in there. So every day, I rode along the main road, going around the field. There weren't many friends nearby, so I always biked alone. I liked the long rides. I even grew to love biking because of it. On weekends, I'd ride just for fun, no reason needed. I don't remember what day of the week it was, but it was definitely a weekday because I was coming home from school. I was riding as usual when the chain on my bike popped off. I don't know how it happened, but it came off completely, and no matter how hard I tried, nothing worked. I couldn't get it back on. Dad had taught me how to fix the bike, but nothing I'd learned helped. I was stuck, and the thought of walking the bike all the way home sounded awful. I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't call my parents. I wasn't going to ask a random driver for a ride either. I knew better. I was on my own. That's when I looked at the cornfield. Walking the usual route would take forever, but cutting through the field would be much faster. My parents had warned me, but I thought, what's so hard? I'll just go straight. I made up my mind and pushed the bike into the field, telling myself it'd be a quick shortcut. At first, everything was fine. There was a narrow but passable path between the rows of corn. The stalks towered over me, and I remember a gentle breeze that day. Imagine walking through a cornfield as a child. The stalks seem 10 times taller. Everything feels 10 times bigger. It started to make me a little uneasy. The corn blocked a lot of light, and it was oddly quiet inside. I don't know why, but every so often I'd look behind me. Something was scaring me, but I just wanted to get out as quickly as possible. After a few minutes, I picked up on a faint rustling sound in the corn, a little ways off the path. I stopped and listened, trying to convince myself it was just the wind, but it didn't sound like the wind. The rustling stopped, but as soon as I started walking again, it came back, louder and closer this time. I started thinking it could be an animal stalking me, but what kind of animal makes that much noise? I was struggling to breathe, wishing I'd never gone into that field at all. I picked up the pace, but I didn't want to leave my bike behind. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, but the rustling came back every few minutes, like whatever it was keeping pace with me. Eventually, the rustling stopped, and I let out a sigh of relief. About 10 minutes passed without any strange sounds. At the next junction, I decided to switch rows, just to be safe. I turned the corner, and standing right there in the middle of the path was a man. He was just standing there, arms at his sides, staring at me. He didn't look like a farmer or anyone who belonged out there. His clothes were dirty and torn, and he had what looked like long scratches on both arms. I don't know how else to describe them, just long marks that looked etched into his skin. I froze, not knowing what to do. Then he spoke, in a low, raspy voice. He asked if I was lost. I didn't respond. I was glued to the spot. He took a step toward me and said he'd help me find my way home. I felt like I was in sleep paralysis. I literally couldn't move. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but I couldn't. He started walking faster, his hands outstretched toward me, and that's when my legs just took over. I dropped my bike and ran as fast as I could. He started chasing me, shouting that he just wanted to help me. I didn't stop running. I could hear him crashing through the corn behind me, yelling for me to stop. Every so often, I'd duck into the corn stalks and curl up in a ball with my eyes closed, trying to make myself as small as possible. I honestly thought I was going to die. As he passed by, he muttered to himself, "I'll find him." I'll never forget those words as long as I live. I hid for what felt like hours. My legs were cramping, my whole body was trembling, but I didn't dare move until I was sure he was gone. When I finally crawled out of the corn and made my way home, I was shaking so badly I could barely walk. It was dark by then. I saw my parents. They were beside themselves with worry. I told them everything. Mom was in tears and Dad looked like he was ready to kill someone. But by then, there wasn't much they could do. The man was long gone. Dad went out to look for my bike, but it was nowhere to be found. They got me a new one a few days later, and life went on. A few weeks later, something else happened that ultimately made us move. I get home from school one day, and there on the porch is my old bike, the one I'd left in the cornfield. I don't remember who was more freaked out, me or my parents. They didn't feel safe with me in that house anymore, so we quickly moved out. My parents don't really talk about what happened, but I don't think I'll ever be able to forget it.